Good evening and welcome to Unity of Payson Saturday evening preview. It's a new thing we're doing here at Unity of Payson, and I'm glad you can be in on it with us. I'm Rev Neal Worthington, and I'm delighted to have you join with us in this way. At Unity of Payson, we have a theme every month, and the services throughout the month follow the theme that we've chosen. For the month of July, which we're just in now, it's the theme of prosperity. And so this preview tonight will follow that theme in a brief version, preview, if you will, of the message that I'll present tomorrow in our Sunday morning service. But enough about that for the moment. Let's jump right in. The title of my message for tomorrow and this discussion tonight is The Illusion of Lack. I'm sure you know what an optical illusion is. Something that you see that may not be entirely real. May not be really the truth of the situation. I was reminded of that when I was looking at a pet video, probably on Facebook. They're fun to look at sometimes, and this one I really chuckled at. An artist had painted on his or her floor an optical illusion that looked like a big drain, something that you could fall into. And it was very realistic looking. And of course, they were pet owners, or he or she was a pet owner, this artist. And we saw the dog coming down the hall, beautiful smooth hallway, and then coming to this optical illusion painted on the floor, the illusion of a drain. Dogs looked at it, I think there were 3 of them, curiously, and then leaped right over the whole thing and continued on down the hallway. What they saw might have been an image that was a little bit misleading, but they believed it to be real and thus responded. The cat came along and unlike the dogs, kind of stretched out on the floor in front of the graphic, and then inched closer and just soon was lying right on top of that optical illusion. Evidently the cat had seen something that the dogs didn't see, saw beyond that misleading image to the smooth hallway continuing, and it was really a comfy place to stretch out. Well, that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about illusion, something that looks differently than the reality of something. An illusion to me is a misleading image, and I'm thinking of it mostly in terms of an image, and not surprisingly, that misleading image is sometimes developed and understood by the mind and processed and understood. So the illusion of lack means that we have a misleading picture of some sort that is one of lack or need or something we don't have, because lack, of course, is something we don't have or don't have enough of. So that's what I'd like to discuss. As I was considering this, my wife Donna and I were talking, and she brought up a really neat term that I liked a lot, called a lack loop. Because when we're having these pictures of lack, they tend to become a loop. We think them over and over again, and after a while we believe them. But this lack loop is what I'd like to talk about a little bit. How to identify it when you're in a lack loop, and then maybe how to find your way out of that to an abundance loop or a shift in perception. A Course in Miracles talks about illusion a lot, and talks about the ultimate illusion. The ultimate illusion being the illusion of separation, separation from the divine, separation from God, separation from all that is. Of course, in unity we talk about us being a divine expression. In the image and nature of God are we created, and because of that, the characteristics, the qualities that are divine are also ours to claim. So when we think about that separation as opposed to the oneness that we affirm, we realize that that is the ultimate illusion, that we are separate, that we're not one, that we don't have these qualities or powers to take and use in our life. Let's develop this a little bit more. Talk about that lack loop. When I think of lack loops, I think of telling a story that's not a very successful one again and again and again. Probably you've never done it, but I'm sure I have. I'll just tell a story over and over again. Perhaps it's a complaint. Perhaps it's something I don't like. Perhaps it's some resentment that I have, and I keep telling that story over and over again. And this can be true about lack in our lives, in any area of lack, whether it would be money or health or relationship or time. The lack is the story, the lack loop is the story being told again and again of the lack of something or something that we don't have enough of. It's also a thought thing. It's also the thinking again and again of something that is of the nature of lack, something we don't have. So we think about that and our thoughts go round and round and round. We're in that loop. And the thing is that when we're in that loop, that lack loop, we tend to create from that lack loop, and we get more of that lack loop. And it's really, really a challenge to get out of that lack loop. We'd like to talk about that a little bit today. So you got what a lack loop is, and you got it can be in any area that we speak of in terms of prosperity or abundance. It can be in terms of time. I lack time, don't have enough time. It can be health. I don't have the health I want. It can be relationship. I don't have the relationships I want. Or, of course, stuff. I like to think of it as stuff, not just money, stuff. I don't have the stuff that I desire to have. Well, I put together a truth that works for me. I will share that with you. The truth is this about abundance and lack. In truth, there is no lack. Nothing is in short supply. Lack is an illusion. I hope you get that. In truth, there is no lack. Nothing is in short supply. Lack is an illusion. So let's look at just a couple of those things that we may, a couple of those areas that we may experience lack. Health. Something came up for me recently, and I told that story again and again to myself and to others as well. My hip was hurting me, and I felt like I had to limp half of the time, and it really hurt. And I complained about that, and I told that story all over and over again, and I was in a lack loop and stuck in that lack loop. Fortunately, I got out, but save that part for a little bit later. Time. You ever been in a situation where you just say, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time to do this, or this takes so much time. I think that is a situation of not being present to the situation, whatever it may be for you or for me in our lives. And that lack of time, we just go round and round again. Maybe we get a habit of being 10 or 15 minutes late. Maybe we get a habit of rushing because we're stuck in that story that we don't have enough time. The same would be true for stuff. I don't have enough money. And thinking that again and again and again, that is my thoughts are always on that. Or perhaps relationship. Oh, I really don't have my family around me like I want again, or they've kind of given up on me. Don't have that partner that I want. I just don't have. I don't have. I want. And so we get into a cycle of wanting that really is a lack loop. We want, but we're focusing on our want. And so because we're focusing, we create from there, and we get a little bit more of it. And that's what a lack loop is. How do you recognize that you're in a lack loop? Well, I've given you some keys already. Number one, if you find yourself telling a story again and again and again, it could very well be a story of lack. It could be that you're in a lack loop. If you find yourself having a desire, but thinking, oh, that's impossible. I don't think I'll ever achieve that. I don't think I'll ever have that. That impossibility thinking is a last loop. It'll keep us going around and round. It's impossible. And so we get stuck in that rut. We can't move ahead. So sometimes it's even very literal. We do something, maybe fairly forcibly, doesn't work. We think, well, if I just adjusted a little bit and do it again and keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it, well, you might think, is this a lack loop when it relates to something that you don't have, that you want, or you don't have enough of? So once you've identified them, then how do we move from that lack loop? And of course the opposite would be an abundance loop to an abundance loop. How do we move from one kind of seeing or one kind of thinking to another kind? I like to think of it as temporal, relating to everything that happens here right in front of us, probably misleading images, a lot of it. And then, of course, on the other end of the scale, eternal. How do we move from temporal to eternal? How do we see with physical eyes and then shift our gaze and see with spiritual eyes? Because when we can do that with regard to what our desires are, we can break out of those lack loops. So another thing that I want to talk about, and I'm just going to do this only briefly. You're going to have to come to service tomorrow morning or listen to that recording to get all of the goodies, because this is just the preview. But how can this all be done? What can we do? And I like to think that there are some ways to do that. Remember I talked about that hip that was hurting? One of the ways I did was to consciously shift my thought and my action. I began to talk to that hip, see it as functioning fluidly and easily. And as I talked to that hip, I applied a nice balm of lavender lotion, went to my chiropractor, seeing the hip as being cared for, as being whole, healed, and at ease. So I shifted in that small example from a lack loop to an abundance loop. It worked. It really did. And no longer did I start waking up in the morning and saying, is my hip going to hurt today? Am I going to have trouble limping to the bathroom? Or no. I began to think of myself as getting up and moving freely and easily. Getting out of that lack loop helped me to experience the abundance of health in this particular fashion. That may be a small start, but a little idea of what's there. Another way to do this is to stay very much in the present. It's so easy when you're telling those stories of lack tell stories about something that happened that you didn't like in the past, or to project a worry into the future or some kind of anxiety, and not to be present to the situation, whatever it is. I find that when I am very present to my activities, time doesn't seem to be the issue that it was before. Being present, a key. Another key, gratitude. Do you give gratitude for something before it manifests into your life? If you do that, you're going to help yourself get out of that lack loop. Seeing with vision, seeing beyond that misleading image that may be there right in front of you, or the one that you've been contemplating over and over again, seeing beyond that to a wholeness, an abundance, a prosperity that is your desire. And then one final thing, being what you desire. Sometimes we just need to be. Would you like health? Why don't you be health? Perhaps that means assisting someone who has a need of health. Perhaps that means getting the exercise that you need or the nutritious food that you need, but you become that you want. What you desire to become. Could even be that you may be feeling like you don't have much in terms of substance, but to take and give. Give. Remember that the widow who gave all that she had. And then guess what happened? That oil that she gave to the temple was replenished over and over again, and she never was without after that time. Started with an act of giving, being what we desire. So let's go back to that truth that I like. In truth, there is no lack. Nothing is in short supply. Lack is an illusion. So examine your story. Spend your mind on what you desire. Open yourself to a different perspective. And employ those 4 omnis that we talk about when we're referring to the divine: omnipresent, omnipotent, omnipowerful, omnipresent, and omnibeneficent. As an expression of the divine, those are yours to claim as well. So employ those. I really like one quote from the Buddha about illusion. And it goes along with that idea of being what we desire to have and the state that we desire to live in. Here we go. Buddha says, we live in illusion and the appearance of things. There is reality. We are that reality. Then I leave you finally with a real brief paraphrased scripture from the Christian scriptures. God has fully satisfied every need of yours. Lack is an illusion. Thank you for listening to that with me and turning it over in your mind. Let's take a moment to just be quiet. Let that settle in to our being. Perhaps you want to close your eyes. I like to do that. It's a great thing. So in the quietness, when I put aside everything else except this present moment and this time, I consider these truths. There is no lack. I let that seep into my soul. Nothing is in short supply. The bountiful universe has everything you need, all ready for the asking. back is an illusion, a story or an image we've made. That is not true. It's misleading. Because abundance is our heritage, abundance is our right, abundance is ours to claim. And so it is, and so we let it be. So I just want to say a couple of things before we leave. Thank you again for sharing in this. Of course, if you want the whole thing, the whole Gadilla, we'll see you tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock Arizona time. You may be anywhere in the country or even in the world, and I'd be delighted if you could share with us in that experience, because the whole service will follow that theme, and we'll be together as a community, some of us in person here in Payson, and some of you virtually wherever you are. So just go to our website, unityofpayson.org. You'll find a link there to join us, and I invite you to join us and to carry this conversation just a little bit further. We'll do this every Saturday evening. We'll make Saturday evening a time just to preview what's coming for the time ahead. I also would mention that if you're blessed by this or by the ministry of Unity of Payson in some way, I invite you to give back a little bit. We appreciate the donations that help us to sustain this ministry, to minister in greater degree, in greater measure. You can do that very simply. We have an opportunity to receive your gifts by a text. Texting to give through a program called Give Lively. The way it happens, you just take your phone out and get the text ready to say a message, and you send it to 44321. Not hard to remember. Send a message to 44321, and in that message box put U of P. UOFP. And then a link will come up, a secure link, so that you can make your gift there to Unity of Payson. Again, I am delighted that you're with us tonight, and I want to leave you with a blessing. I bless you with the ability to face the challenge of shifting from lack loop to an abundance loop. To not see only with physical eyes, but to see with spiritual eyes, not only temporally, but eternally. I bless you with this as you go on your way this evening and through this next week. Thanks again. Bye for now.